Peak Petrol. Have we really reached the tipping point? Well, it's claimed that 2024 was the year that we hit peak petrol. That's it. That's the moment where the number of petrol cars on the UK roads reached its absolute peak and apparently will now only go downhill. Well, at least that's what an Auto Trader report is forecasting. Now, according to them, we have actually topped out at about 18.7 million petrol cars in the UK. And from this point onwards, that number is going to shrink. And it's going to shrink a lot. How much exactly? Well, how about a 40% decline over the next decade, dropping to just 11.1 million petrol cars in total. Remember, I just said there were 18.7 million. Now they're 11.1 million by 2034. That's what they're saying. What's going to be in their place? Well, EVs. Lots of EVs. If that all sounds a bit dramatic, think about it this way. Is this really the end of petrol's reign? Or is this just another over-optimistic EV forecast that probably may not quite pan out the way that they expect? Well, let's get into all of that right after this.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
So the petrol decline, or the EV takeover. Where's all this coming from? Well, it's coming from Auto Trader's data, which suggests that while petrol has ruled the roads for over a century, its grip is finally slipping, and it's slipping fast. The EV numbers, apparently, they are set to explode. Right now, there are about 1.25 million EVs in the UK, and by 2034, they predict that will skyrocket to, get this, 13.7 million, which is practically swapping places with petrol cars. Remember, that was about 11 million. And the reason for this supposed big shift, well, it's not just the government pressure, it's prices, of course. What else? You see, for the first time now, 1 in 3 used EVs are priced under £20,000. And that is a 25% increase in affordability compared to 2023. And these aren't just the ancient, Nissan Leafs of yesteryear. We're talking about real game-changer EVs of about 3 to 5 years old. These middle-aged electric cars are selling fast. In fact, they sell in 19 days on average, which is actually 11 days quicker than petrol or diesel cars on the used market. And let's face it, aside from us petrol heads, we love the roar of the engine, the smell of petrol fumes, and the joy of real driving. To be honest, for most people, they just want a car that gets them from A to B with as little hassle as possible. And EVs, well, they're quiet, they're easy to drive, they're packed with tech, and they appeal massively, especially to younger drivers. Once the charging network improves and battery tech gets its long overdue upgrade, we're talking things like better battery compositions, better battery tech, including things like solid state batteries. Potentially they're going to be hitting mass production by 2027. In that case, we could see EV sales skyrocket in the coming years. So this report could well be right. So is this a sign that public perception is actually shifting when it comes to EVs? Or are these just the first waves of used car market early adopters finally finding a sweet spot in the second-hand market? Although it's worth mentioning that a large number of those used newer and so-called middle-aged EVs are probably Teslas. And well, because, for a long time they dominated the new EV sales charts, right? But here's the thing. Since this report was written in December 2024, Tesla's reputation has taken a serious hit. Sales have slowed. Some owners are now actively embarrassed to be seen in one. And demand for used Teslas might not be as strong as this report optimistically predicted. So could we actually see a glut of unwanted Teslas rather than a race or a boom in used Tesla EV adopters? How about the new car market? There's growth, but maybe not quite a boom. It's not all bad news for us petrol heads, by the way. New car sales are still growing. Auto Trader predicts a 2% rise in 2025 this year, hitting 1.98 million new car registrations. But that still puts us 14% below pre-pandemic levels. And EV sales, they are rising, as we know, globally, but at around a predicted 23% of the market for 2025 is what they're estimating. That is still short, however, of the government's ambitious 28% target, which raises the question, if EVs are so dominant, why aren't people snapping them up in bigger numbers? Could it be that affordability is still a barrier, that charging infrastructure remains a headache, that despite all the forecasts, many drivers are still hesitant to go EV? And the used car market? Now look, if you're worried that your petrol car is about to plummet in value, a bit like what EVs have been doing lately, just hold on. The used market is actually still quite strong. Auto Trader expects 7.61 million used car sales in 2024, or they had 7.61 million used car sales in 2024, rising to 7.7 million in 2025. And petrol cars are still expected to make up the vast majority of that market, while EVs, they're creeping, but they're far from being in a dominant position, that's for sure. So while they allege that we've hit peak petrol on paper, I think the reality on the ground is a bit more complex. So what's the truth? All right, well, let's sum this up. Has petrol peaked? Well, Auto Trader says it has. The numbers supposedly won't go higher than 18.7 million petrol cars on the road ever again. This is what they're saying. Because EV sales are rising, but they still face hurdles. Meanwhile, new car sales are recovering, but not at the record pace that was probably expected. And the used market is still going strong. So the big question is, will these predictions actually hold, the predictions from Auto Trader that is, or will petrol's decline be slower than the industry is expecting? Because let's face it, we've heard forecasts like this before. A decade ago, we were supposed to be knee-deep in EVs at this point, yet they've only just started gaining traction. And of course, things have changed quite a since, like I say, since this report actually came out in December of last year. In the USA, there's been an officially led backlash against EVs. And many of the bigger car companies are hitting the brakes, rethinking and realigning their investments when it comes to EVs, of course. So is the prediction of peak petrol actually premature? Maybe, but frankly, who knows? What do you think? Is petrol really past its peak, or is there still some fight left in the old internal combustion engine? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe on your way out. Please check out my latest book, How to Be an Automotive Content Creator, based on my 35 years in the business, along with, of course, my novel, The U-List Files, and my collection of short stories, Quantum Races. They're all available on Amazon. And if you enjoy my content, you find it helpful and useful, please do think about supporting me at the links in the description. It all helps, it really does. Catch you all in the next video. See you there. Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.